Came down to this southern town last summer to show the folks a brand new way of life. But all you've shown the folks around here is trouble, and you've only added misery to their strife. Your concern is not to help the people, and I'll say again, no, it's been often said, your concern is just to bring discomfort, my friend, and your policy is just a little red. Now, ain't I right?
Okay, let's talk about this tank, the T-58 Heavy. God, I know I don't want to jump the gun to it, but this took me longer than I thought, because I posted a video last week that I almost got this done and everything. I just needed a good game to show it off. Well, the problem is having a good game in it. Why? I mean, let's just break it down to you. But before we begin this, I'm going to have to say something real quick, because I got two announcements. One, I'm not going to be doing much World Tanks this kind of month, kind of week thing, because I am helping my best friend Chunks to grind out his season pass. So this is probably going to be my only tank video, but I'm still going to post videos, but I'm just saying this is going to be probably my only tank video until I get it done for him, because he's got a problem with Wargaming, pretty much cannot, like, they can't fix his thing where every time he plays one game he gets kicked out, so he's asking me to pretty much play his account, which I agree, because he has helped me in the past. He's been in several videos of mine now. I figure, what the heck. So I'm giving you that update. Also, update number 2 real quick. Wargaming. If I was sitting down with you right next to you with an arm around your shoulder about to punch you in the face, stop bringing out so many tanks in 1 week. What do we have? Like the Bradley, I know that's been out for a while. But then they brought this tank last week, which is the AAT-60, which is funny because it reminds me of AT-80 or AATT or the AT-AT tanks, like in Star Wars, but no. It's like they brought out this one, and then they also brought out this tank just today. I mean, this video is going to be out on Tuesday, but they brought out a French, whatever the fuck this is, Charlemagne 75, Freedon, I don't know, I don't speak French, forgive me French reviewers, but I just, and I wouldn't be so mad if the other last 2 tanks that came out is the Bradley and this tank, which is the Chieftain. Holy crap. The one time I'm helping my friend grind out a season pass, all of the tier 9s come out, which I will say this real quick, and I know you want to get to the review. I am sorry. I'll leave a timer if you want to skip this to tell you this, ahead of time. But Wargaming, stop bringing out 9s. Stop bringing out 9s. They don't make money. They have no money but 5% crew XP training, or XP to whatever thing that you have to get gold to convert that XP. So it doesn't really matter. So why are you bringing out so many 9s in one freaking 2 or 3 weeks? Like, this is absolute bullpucky. I get the Cold War vehicle is not a part of it, but I'm just saying we have 3 fucking tier 9s now. And it's, I'm just tired of that. It's just so stupid. And I want to review them. I will get these tanks, but I won't have time to review them unless I get a season pass done real quick. But this Wargaming needs to stop. Stop. I am sick and tired of this. Stop bringing out 9s. They don't make money. And even if you do make money, it's usually what a standard tank makes. So stop bringing out tanks that you have to pay with your wallet to play these tanks that has normal money earning. God! So sorry about that, folks. So T-57 Heavy, here we are. Let's just talk about it. So you're probably asking yourself, why do I hate this tank so much? Well, the problem is with this tank, it's just got... Where do I begin with this tank? Well, obviously this is supposed to be a better predecessor, since I'm guessing, since I'm not really 100% American, I'm Deutschland, that the T-57 Heavy is a better version than the T-57. I mean, T-58, T-57, you know what I mean. It's supposed to be better than this tank. which in hindsight, a lot of it, yes. It's got only 400 damage, where this one, as you can see, yeah, big difference, which is very excellent. But you're going to see in a very different way how the T-57 plays heavy versus the T-58. Let's talk about the armaments real quick. And as you could tell right off the bat, if you're not a World Tanks expert, you could see a major problem with the armaments right here, right now, as one of the main reasons I have a problem with this tank. First and foremost, its armor sucks around the head. What do I mean by that? It's got one major weak spot. And if you could see it in bright colors, you could see it. If for those who don't know, let me scroll the head turret armor and show you it. It's the cheeks. These motherfucking cheeks are Achilles heel nightmare. This is an awful armor design of survival, which this has 125, so it's on the side, so okay, as long as you're looking at the target, you can pen it easily with AP. But the more you go in, look at that, 139. Okay, still a little slanted, but not bad. But the inner part, the one that's flat on the outside when you see it facing towards you, 152 millimeters. Do you see the problem here, audience? Like, do you see what I'm getting at here? The head turret cheeks can be penned easily, and I've done this so many times with freaking tier 10s. And do you want to know how bad it is? This is how bad it is, audience. My normal shell on the Leon Russ, which I have review, I will leave a link for the curious. This can pen its cheek face. Think about that. I've talked about that tank. If you want a full depth in it, you can look it in the description. But when I said about its pen being below averagely bad for a tier 10, and it can pen the cheeks of a T-58 heavy, oh god, we're in a rude awakening already. We're already off on a bad start with this tank. So what about everything else, Fury, for armaments besides the major problem with the tank? Well, even though it's rounded, you may bounce some shells if you keep this thing wiggling and moving. That makes sense, but again, if you sit still, which you're going to have to sometimes to snipe at people, they're going to pen your turret thing, so and I know what you're all going to say right now, because I'm getting flustered remembering all the times I get penned. You're probably going to say, well, Fury, the actual T-57 can do that kind of play role. So it's like it gets penned all the time, Fury, or some of the areas. Granted, yes, I get that. And like I said, we'll talk about that more in a minute. And I get it. The T-57 Heavy has some weak spots too. But look at the major difference when you look at the T-57 Heavy. It's flatter, it's smaller, and you have a more chance to hiding it better without much gun depression. Like, it's more thin. Compare this to the T-58 Heavy, and you can see the problem. It stands out like the French freaking heavies that don't have armor. And I know what you're all going to say. Well, I play the French Heavy Fury. It's no problem. Yeah, and sadly, how Wargaming says it, that's... we'll get to that in my personal talk thing. But yeah, everything else, same armaments, is very bad on all the sides. Upper plate armor can block some tier 10s because of the angle on the freaking, the bubble rounded turret, upper skirt of their tanks. You could bounce some shells, not every shell, but, it's not bad. And the weird part is, the frontal part is the strongest, this curved part. So if it was out a little bit more, I would say this tank is designed to also to ram people since it has so much millimeters, just like the French does, but it doesn't. It's the tracks kind of block that. And yeah, that is the major look on the armaments. So you're probably saying, okay, Fury, so it's got a horrible survival turret. So it's got to be designed to be either a flanker or destroyer, which, yes, and we'll get to that in a minute. Um, so how else would this be another problem with this tank? Like, does it have a benefit? Yes, and we'll talk about that right now. The benefit it has is its motherfucking gun. Its gun is terrifying. Like, again, you already saw the damage it does, 750. The average roll I usually do in that tank is 650 or pretty much 600. That's usually the lowest roll I keep rolling every time in this tank. But again, that's great for the damage. However, though, fire rate is not that great. So I got a good crew in this. Everything's all maxed out. I even have combat rigs, which I'll explain my personal reason for that. I also have combat rigs to make it go faster. So it's got an okay speed reloading, but it sucks that I have to use everything. But firing rate per second is not good. Like, it's like almost like 7 or 8 seconds for me firing, like, another shot, which again, it makes sense because if you got shot with something that is the equal equivalence to an E4 TD's damage, yeah, I could see why the devs kind of balance that out. But it still sucks, but again, understandable because again, you do not want this tank to go rapidly fire shooting fucking 750 per freaking minute. Um, and that's another thing too. This thing is like the T57 Heavy. It's got an auler, but it doesn't have a lot of clips. It only has 3, which is again another major problem in my personal review. But again, I guess I understand why. Um, so as you can see there, penetration at 100 meters is 206, 76, which again, not bad, but you don't want to be close with this tank. But 500 meters, 264, which again, it's better than the Leon Russ. It's got a average pen. Now, this type of ammo has AP, heat, and freaking high explosives, and ammo capacity 36. Now, you would think that would be low, but it's not. It For the amount of damage it does, trust me, if you hit every shot, it's got enough. Believe me, it's got enough shells. However, the only thing I don't like about this and the way how you have to play this is flanking sniping. I don't know why the devs made it where when the trailers they made it look like a brawling tank the minute you get in here and it says like you go up in personal and shoot people, which you could if you were, can do things, but at the same time, I wouldn't highly recommend it, and I'll tell you that in my personal review when we get to the actual battlefield when I'm showing the gameplay. So, despite all that, it's got 2,250 hit points, which is, yeah, I mean, almost tier 8 level of health, almost 9, to be honest. That's not good. I mean, to me, trust me, it may look like a lot for some people, but the way how this tank gets hit a lot, it doesn't feel like a lot of hit points to this tank. Max speed 35. They're not wrong. This thing moves slightly faster than a freaking mouse, probably because of the bobblehead turret. Again, another reason why I think this should be only classified as a sniper picker, and I'll explain that why in the game. And then viewing range. Now I had to fix this because the viewing range on the tank really, really was bad. I get it what the devs were doing. They were trying to make it like a medium support role play role, but I get killed all the time with that. And like I said, I'll give you backstories of mine when we get in the game. But I had to fix it and I had to do all that. So yeah, so I had to fix that. I had to fix its single range, which is 825.9. Think of how bad that is, audience. It's like its single range and viewing range were so bad. I had to put a commander in here with all the perks that involving seeing shit. Well, except for obviously I could see it down at the bottom. I forgot to put in like, single range. That's my fault, but at least basic single range. So you can increase it, but again, obviously this is a team player tank. I want to get to the personal stuff, so let's talk about the ammo real quick until we get into the game. Now, mind you, remember, this is a 3-shot, so if you ever want to know the exact price of things, you got to times it by 3. So the first shell we got, obviously, I already talked about, so the only thing I have to mention is its speed. Its max speed is 870, so again, it's AP. I expect it to go slightly slower than APCR. Hell, if I ever see an AP faster than APCR, I'm going to be questioning a few things. But it's 1,650 credits per one shot. So if you times that by 3, and I'll do the math up there for you, yeah, that's yeah. I mean, it's expensive, yeah, but it's a tier 10. So, and again, this thing does not make money. It's not a money maker. Now, people got confused the last time. I say that all the time with tier 10s because they always argue saying like they make money. No, what I mean is there is like if you take a tier 8, it will say like it has like 100, like above 100% silver earning rate. You want that because every standard tank in the game has 100% silver earning, 100% XP earning, 5% like free XP earning. So you want it to be above more than 100, which unfortunately for the Type 58 Heavy, it just doesn't have that. So, granted, yes, it's got no money earning, so you got to treat it like a standard tank, which, again, I don't know why they don't bother with that because you're paying. I'm saving that for the personal thing. Sorry, I'm getting off track. So, the next round you get, and this thing is fucking broken, is Heat. This thing is a sniping monster if you pin it right. Because penetration at 100 or 500 meters is all the same, is 370. Again, that's 100 times more better than the standard round. But again, it's 5,200 a shell. So times that by 3 and yeah, you lose credits real fast just spamming that. So you gotta guarantee you hit them all the time with premium days that you have, or you gotta like fucking you gotta make sure that you don't like waste so many of them. Like, good God, that is a lot. And the damage is 750, so it's the same amount. I've tested one game, and as you can tell by the silver on top, I have enough to credits to burn to test this theory. And yeah, you can lose money in this really quick, even victories. It's a lot of credits, especially a 3-clip autoloader that pens all the time. So I know you need to use this because there's a lot of tanks that are above 258, and then there's mouses that are hold down and stuff. So I get it why they would pack this, but I would only pack 12. That's just my personal thing. But I would not recommend spamming this on a tank that you know you could pen. For the love of God, if you could pen it, do not use it. And I get it, it's hard because it's a 3-clip autoloader, but trust me, it's better than spending 1,650 than spending 5,200 times 3. And then the last one, well, actually, I should say the max speed is 226. So, again, less speed, but then again, it's a high explosive, armor piercing, kind of like high explosives. So, the next one is Heat, which is I don't pack any because in a 3-clip autoloader, I don't see why, unless you're annoying people hold down and you don't want to spend too much money. But for killing purposes, no. But it does have a decent pen against some tanks, like 120, so it's not too bad. But again, with how long the reload for each clip, how long you have to reload your gun, it's not really worth it, in my opinion, unless you don't want to spam premium, but you got a tank that you can't pen and you want to annoy it every 3 shots every time. I guess you could do that, but again, I wouldn't pack so much of this, but that's just my opinion. But damage is 950, so if I have tested it out to see, and it does work, but every time I hit a heavy armored tank, you only do like, I would say 250, and that's like if I hit it right, and if you hit it slightly above right, you can get like, like almost 390, which is not bad for a lot of people that play tier 10s, but it's not good getting 950 and costing your reload time and your team's lives just to annoy one tank. It's not winning worthy or best gameplay worthy. And blast radius is 3.77. So again, take that as it is. It's not horrible, but I would not pack it. So after saying all that, now we're going to talk about my personal thing while you watch a game because holy Hannah, I have a lot to talk about. So, my personal opinion on the Type 58. Hoo, I gotta talk real quick. I know it's a short game, but there's a lot to talk about. I hate this tank. I really do hate this tank. And it's not because, no, it's not like the other one we had in the past where it's cheap and we had a British Derp gun that was OP and I got spoiled with that. No, I'm talking about this tank has a horrible survival thing. And this is why you don't see many of them today unless they're in packs, like a wolf pack. But this is the problem with the tank. It relies heavily on sniping and flanking. And I wouldn't be so mad about it if Wargaming didn't show the trailer of it, showing like, oh, this is supposed to be in your face kind of tank, blapping people with 750, which you could, like I said, because it does 700 almost damage, which is amazingly a lot of damage. But if you do that in game, however, like I've tested that theory to show it. Yeah, no, no, because of how the rate of fire every time you fire and you have to wait a little bit longer to shoot, it's not really a close range brawling tank, unlike the French autoloaders or things like that that can actually be terrifying. Now, I didn't mention much in the video, but when I said about the T57 Heavy difference with the T58 is that difference. Because the T57 Heavy used to been, I don't know if it is now, but when I played it and it was terrifying, used to been a hide behind a buddy, but also in your face kind of shooting people nonstop. It is a terrifying tank. This, however, like I said, is a sniper. And how many times I got killed in this tank. It is one of the most hardest tank to ever play in World Tanks, in my opinion. Not because of like all the other tanks. Now you're probably gonna say, "Well, Fury, I've played tall tanks with no armor, and I do just fine." Okay, that's fine, but it's not my play style because, again, one, it's a team-related tank, which means you have to rely on your team to protect your reloading, to protect your flank, to protect anything that is around you. Otherwise, you will get detonated easily with this tank because of how vulnerable those cheeks are. And let's talk about those cheeks for a second. Why are they so freaking weak? Like, we're a tier 10. We have to be a tier 10. This is supposed to be a better version of the 10. Now, I get it why the dev said this, and I said this before. I understand the dev understanding not making a fast reloading gun, because Jesus Christ, that would be broken. We already had a Waffen Trigger often E100 incident back in the day that they had to nerf the shell down and everything. But to me, I find it funny how now seeing it more and more, it is literally designed to be a sniper. It is so hard to keep this tank alive. So hard. And I know I said that so much, so how do I feel about the gun and all that for personal thing? I think it's okay for what it is. I think it does basically okay. It's not the Leon Russ's normal Pens gun, which is God that go watch my review like I said. So basically, it's not bad. But however, I even had to ask help, which thank you Reaper for if you're watching this, because he had to help me with this because it was very hard to keep this tank alive. Now, I get it. Yes, if you play this by yourself, it is very hard to keep it alive because you have to trust some people that don't communicate with you. And then people think you're a big badass heavy hitter tank. Most people don't take care of you. And then you die, and then they wonder why they don't see them anymore on the battlefield. Well, that's why. It's just that horrible of pretty much survival rate. And the fact is, like, I don't mind. Like I said before, I have played so many tanks in my day that have no armaments. I played so many tanks today where there was no gun pen, and tried to make use of them. And some tanks do succeed. And this tank is one of them. I really think it does do okay, but man, the amount of sacrificing I had to do for getting at least a decent viewing range, to sacrifice a lot of stuff, my perks and stuff, to implement more and more on seeing the targets and all that, and it's just painful to watch. And the slowness. Now, when I said about the slowness, and I would say to explain it later, but it makes sense that this is a sniper tank because you're slow. You're very freaking slow. So if you're out in the open field, like you see in this video, like I didn't mean to, but I had no choice, you're going to get frigged. You get flanked, you're frigged. You just get frigged all over the place. And it's just a huge it's just so bad. Now, granted, yes, people are going to say, well, have mercy on a Fury. It's only 6,000 gold for this tank. No, I'm not going to give it mercy if it's got problems or not. Because, again, what is the point of getting a tank or a thing if it's not good? Now, I know everybody's going to type in the comments saying, like, oh, we got it for just the XP boost things to get up to, like, 25 plus some like thing. Okay, whatever. I mean, it is what it is with you guys. I know a lot of you probably have this and realize the problems already, but I did wanted to talk about this, okay? So, and plus everybody was asking me how to make it better. And this is how I would make it better. Snipe, flank with a buddy, use your instance and use the terrain against your enemy. Do not open fire when you don't have a backup contingency plan to get out of the way. So, in other words, if you're about to shoot a tank and you're out in the open and the cover is miles away behind you and you're about to shoot just to get some damage, don't. If you're not detected, don't shoot. If you are detected, try your best to fire your gun if you can pen them. If you can't, find some cover quick because this tank needs to be protected at all costs behind cover, terrain, and everything because of the fact of how weak your cheeks are on your face. You have to be really, really, really careful. And sometimes that can be fun. Like I said, I've played many tanks that have that similar problem, but I just not a big fan of big, tall tanks that are slow as molasses getting shot at. Oh, and not to mention the arties will have a fun day targeting your rear end the whole entire time. So enjoy that if you have that tank. Oh, trust me, I had that scenario. So again, I just find it funny because I even thought about even showing this in AI game if I finally had a game like this where I can finally show it. And it's just so painful when I try to play it. And again, most of these tanks that people like don't have this problem, or like, again, not my playstyle, which is fair. I can only do so far. I am not like the god of gods of men of playing tanks and trying to explain the tanks. I mean, I try my best, but I'm not perfect. There's many tanks that I'm not good at. But at the same time, though, for this tank, however, it is really heavily a support only role with people sniping role, and it's in wargaming lies saying like it's a brawler because it could be a brawler against some tanks, but because of that weak armaments around the face, the waiting to fire the next shot after your three clip on thing, which by the way, shooting all three won't kill the tank. So that's another problem. So yeah, that's the thing I was mostly mad about when they try to advertise this to people, thinking that this is a tank that goes up and just slaughters everybody. But reality, it needs someone to hold its hand to keep it alive. So again, I'm not disking heavily on the tank. I get it. That sounds all bad, but it's my personal thing of playing this tank so many times and getting slaughtered because of those weaknesses. And uh, but don't worry, like I said, it's not my everybody's tank. That's basically what it is. So the game's almost about to wrap up. I will see you in the garage for the pretty much my. So, final verdict on the T-58 heavy tank. Despite my protests on it, I know a lot of people are going to outright defend it because, again, this tank is not the worst of the worst tier 10s. Like I said about also the Leon Russ is another one that is really below average pen tank but has armor. So people can look at things like that. However, it's just doesn't feel right to be above it. Honestly, this should be named the T-57 Heavy, and this one should be the T-58 because I feel like this one is much more superior besides the damage doing of this tank. And honestly, I just don't know what else to feel about this tank because I know a lot of people are going to say, well, it's cheap right now, Fury, so that's fine. You're probably going to say, well, it's also not bad at penning stuff, again, plus. But the problem is it's a survivability, and people working with you is the problem. If you don't like people working with you and you want to try doing things yourself, this tank has a huge problem with players that have that mindset. I mean, let's face it, we all play this game and we all run into those people that just don't know how to play the game. So you're pretty much screwed because you're going to rely on them, their eyes, or their reliability of knowing their own tank just to keep you alive. And this is probably the reason why there's not many of these tanks left on the battlefield that so far I have seen. Now, I've seen a couple of them. That means it's not totally die out, but I have not seen so many of them where, they just don't do like, there's not like a shit ton of them like the freaking British, big, huge derp gun. But again, it's not 100% a bad tank. I will say this. It's not. But it just suffers so much. So, the only way you get that tank is buying the season pass. And again, people are going to defend it saying because it's only 6,000 gold for a tier 10, and most tier 10s are outrageously stupefied at how much they ask for it. So, yes, I can see that clearly that it's not a bad price for what it is. But however, the tank's final verdict to me is a 5 out of 10. Now, you're probably asking yourself, like, 5? Really, Fury? Why? Like, why a 5? Well, here's why. And again, like, hear me out for those that like this tank and criticize me. Just hear me out. Okay, so you got a cheaply tank. You got a cheap tank kind of. What the hell's going on with that? Stay still. Anyway, back to what I was saying. You got a cheap tank tier 10. Okay, positive. That's good. You got a tank that does 750 damage shot, and it's 3 of them. Okay, good. It does like the average of 261 for its standard pen, meaning you don't have to use premium a lot if you could pen it. Good. I like that. However, I will say this, it's got a mediocre meh aim time, which again, fair enough, you're aiming a big huge gun, you gotta balance it out somewhere, I guess. But the problem is you got a horrible survival rate. You got a major weak spot where your gun is. If people know that spot, you're going to get slaughtered. You don't. You basically have like an okay reload, but again, you've got weight for each shot, so it's not like a killing tank. It's more like, haha, I took all your health. Now you can back up, and oh, I can't shoot you again because I gotta wait a couple of more seconds to fire my damn gun. And that's a huge problem. Now, granted, yes, reloading's okay, everything else is okay, but the tank is just meh. It's average. Because, again, at the end of the day, what is the best way to describe a tank? It has to play on the battlefield, it has to pen shit, and it has to do its job of the classification. Not because it says it's a heavy tank. I get sick and tired of people saying it's a heavy tank, Fury, so it has to brawl. Yeah, tell that to the FCM 50 ton. They did change it to a medium now, which is hilarious because it used to been only a heavy tank for so long, but it's actually a tank that can't take a hit. So don't give me that saying it's a heavy tank and it could take hits. Now it can for its upper plate, but it can't anywhere else along with its face and stuff, which where you're gonna shoot, like the major tiny weak spots if you can, or the major weak spot, which is the face. I rest my case. Like, that's just awful to me. But again, I wouldn't mind it if you had speed, but it's just not all. It's just bad. But honestly, I don't think it's a bad tank. I that's why I said average. It does its job. I just can't do the job very easily, but it does okay for justice purposes of the price. If you want to get this tank, go on the game now, get the Season Pass Ultimate now, and get the tank if you just want the tank. Because honestly, if this tank comes out at full price, I would go like 4 digit. I would give it like a 4 out of 10. For paying $100 for this, no. That you need to get this tank now while it's just only $30. Because honestly, I know that sounds cruel, and I'm not trying to advertise World Tanks, but if you are desperate to try to see if this tank's good and you saw everything in this video and you find it okay, this is the best price to get it in, because I do not recommend people buying $100 tanks that do absolutely no money earnings or whatsoever. So, yeah. And that's another problem why it has a downvote of being 5 out of 10. It's no money earnings. And you. Five. Like, it's just awful when it comes to that. There's many tier 10s that can make money with shooting normal rounds, and you can pen shit and kill them. Here, it's just. So that's my final verdict on it. So thank you all so much for watching. I will come back to tanks eventually, but I gotta go help my friend Chunks grinding his season pass. And let me know what you think about the new tanks or your own opinion on the T58 Heavy. Let me know if you do better than me or pretty much do pretty much have the same experience. Like, honestly, I would love to hear your opinion. Like, honestly, I know this tank can be good. I know a lot of players can do good in it. It's just its play style is not my taking. But I have a fair judgment of tier 5 out of, because there's many tanks with autoloaders that don't take a hit, can do better. But that's just my opinion. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you comrades in the next video.